Starting in 3, 2, 1. Hello, my name is Wolfie OG Funk Master, also known as, the Big Bad Wolf, your good friend. And, today I'm going to be talking about the reptilian conspiracy theory as proposed by David Icke and many others. For those of you who don't know who David Icke is the British guy who was a footballer or a soccer player, and then he worked for the BBC, and then he went on television and he told everybody that he was the son of God, and then he proposed this, I think, brilliant idea that I'll just read this for you. As a kid, I have wondered how few islands, which you can hardly see on the globe, could have an empire that spanned the world. Now, the reason is obvious. It was not the Great British Empire at all. It was the empire of the Babylonian Brotherhood. They took the esoteric knowledge, memories, and understandings of true history out of general circulation. Ancient accounts were largely destroyed or withdrawn to secret Brotherhood libraries, not least beneath the Vatican. Overt control always has had a finite life, because in the end, there will be a challenge and rebellion against it. Covert control can go on forever, because you don't rebel against something you don't know exists. A person who thinks he is free will not complain that he is not. The truth of what is going on here is so bizarre that most people will not believe it, and so you have the perfect situation for ongoing unchallenged control. Now, for me, the reason why I woke up to this, and maybe you are right now, is a lot of this weird tribalism that everyone sees going on in politics. And not only that, but there was a situation in my life where I believed I was traveling through the collective unconscious, the Jungian collective unconscious, and meeting different archetypes, and it almost felt like I was living inside of a book. Or if you think of Jung, why are there only 12 archetypes? To me, that sounds like some sort of weird program. So, in the David Icke book, it's so complicated to really summarize. There's 2 articles that I'm going to share with you today, and I'm going to discuss over some of the reasons why I became almost convinced that there are secret societies, that it's not just left, right. There is a permanent government that exists that manipulates things. Maybe we'll start out with the strange global intelligence files. So there was an email that I found on WikiLeaks, and it was from this math professor, and you can find this. It's under the global intelligence files, and let's see what his name was. He's discussing his name is Kevin Stetch, research director at Stratford. Kevin Stratford. I don't know if that's the exact guy, but that's the email down below. Anyway, he says, I think this may help you understand why this planet is scientifically, environmentally, politically, and religiously a disaster. Several years ago, after leaving the armed service, I was abducted by a gray 3 to 6 dimension that are working with reptilians, the Federation. The Federation is a non-human NATO-type organization of greys, reptilian, insectoids, mothmen, recessive beings like the ones in movies, mostly violent and destructive. There is about 42 different types of species of military males in various bases in the United States. Some of the reptilian bases are in the USA, Arizona, New Mexico, and the Middle East. You can find more information on the Orion beings and non-Earth and non-humans discussed in thousands of contact books. And it goes on. One of the most interesting things I found in this was the discussion of souls. So listen to this, and I've seen other sources that said this as well. I'll go into that more. These reptilian hybrid and greys are working with a type of 5th and 6th dimension ascended brotherhood, communally minded hive mind society subspace beings, frequency energy space society beings, controlling many false religions and non-human type religious belief systems. Why? A, for control, so that humans do not go into space to find their ET and non-ET human bases. Cities and ships, because of our souls. This is very complicated to understand. We have a soul. The soul is a, and then the article blanks out the word. It says a, and then brackets it says frequency atomic particle electrical information. That is a part of us, but according to all legends and some modern technology, the soul can be taken with the use of high frequency voltage technology. The soul is a vestige of our genetic pasta that we piece in much of the same way our reptilian lower brain is. And that's important that we have a reptilian lower brain, because it is thought that our DNA is the combination of multiple different alien species. We're almost this kind of crown jewel of creation, but I'll get more into that in a different thing. There are several types of ETs that can remove another space ET race. There are several types of ETs that can remove this frequency from part of your body. Reptilian, gray, fallen angels, devils steal it and use it for longevity, for frequency energy, and their own race studies like some ETs do with our DNA, ovum, and sperm abduction. Thousands of very well documented cases around the world. People choose to ignore this because it sounds far off, and the type of information is found in thousands of mythological and factual alien abduction accounts. So this goes on. It talks about, as we've heard, I don't know how many people have heard this, but Hitler was using alien technology in the occult to get technology from the aliens, and that's pretty mainstream stuff that Hitler was very into the occult. It talks about how all extraterrestrials are physical carbon-based, silicon-based molecular beings, and a lot of stuff that I honestly don't understand. I think it also talks about Wait. This is very strange. Space soul beings? Ghost, okay. Some very intelligent people see and believe in ghosts, elementals, space soul beings, ETs, etc. Some people get cold in some areas, or when some soul beings are around the world, these space hertz, I wish I knew what that actually was, atomic beings steal, and then it's this blanked out word. They take your energy. And that's something I've been saying for a long time, that if energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that's the second law of thermodynamics, and if life itself is an energy, then people cannot actually die. What I have thought is maybe, in a sense, while we lack intellectual capabilities compared to these extraterrestrials, we have superior spiritual abilities, and our souls make us really special. Now, I'm going to go into how this connects to secret societies in a later bit, but another thing I want to discuss is an alien account with a reptilian. And it's really strange because some of the other ideas about souls are represented in this article as well. Hey. So I pulled up at the Lacerda files. Now, this was a supposed recording of a meeting with one of these reptilians that was recorded in December 1999. There are no pictures of this because of the way I've heard about this shape-shifting idea. That's not really shape-shifting, it's more like mind control. David Icke supposes that because everything is a simulation, that they're able to move from one fourth to another because they're controlling the world, but in the Lacerda files it's more of a mind control thing. But it talks about paranormal things, and so it talks some of this I'm a little skeptical of, but we'll just listen. This says, talking about how to concrete paranormal powers arrive, and this paralayer lies between the layers of matter and the morphogenic layers of field in the sphere of influence. It can actively integrate with your body. Your body, for example, is mirrored as a field in the sphere of influence, and it says Feldrum, which is supposedly, I looked it up, it's like a diagram of how the universe is supposed to be, but it says that does not mean that it does not also exist here as well, as flesh, blood, bones, in the form of strings or atoms, but not only that, existence is always a duality, which is something I have been saying for a really long time, since I started having this weird awakening that duality was a ruling force to the world. It's order and chaos, and that's also something I discussed with this person. It's kind of like the Tao. Anyway, continuing. Some layers of the field contain simple information about how solid matter of your body and its frequency, while other layers contain information about your spirit, your consciousness, or, speaking from human religious point of view, your soul. Awareness or consciousness in this case is a simple energy matrix divided into different layers of your field in the sphere of influence, nothing more, nothing less. Genuine awareness can also exist on the matter side, but only in the form of post-plasma, the fifth form of matter. Now, this is kind of my criticism of this article, to know I'm not sure if this is faked or not, because a lot of it, before any sort of science could be revealed, it just like goes into being like, oh, you humans are primitive, and that almost sounds like something someone would say if they wrote this, So that's why I don't. Yeah, anyway. But above all, we're talking about science here, not magic or dark forces. It continues. And it says, okay, the soul robbing was mentioned in one of our radical religious motivated comments in connection with the reptilian species. Creatures with more powerful mental powers can have direct influence on the paralayer by the means of consciousness awareness fields. Now, this layer is not limited to only the individual, but rather as a part of general information layer. You could call it the prozoic sense of the community soul that is connected with inanimate and all inanimate matter and all consciousness which exists on this main level. So I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, the rest of this article just goes into describing the underground tunnels which exist for these reptilians to go through. You know, this could be completely fake. I don't know this, but and all the inconsistencies in religion. But now I was kind of gonna go into what I mean about secret societies and all this, and possibly kind of the ICANN theory, but you know, I'm still feeling things out. I think I'll know the truth in time. You know, people like to... There's been a lot of cancellation of Alex Jones, and I didn't know anything about him until I saw this video called Bohemian Grove. And Bohemian Grove is really, really interesting. I want you to imagine a club where Richard Nixon, George Bush, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan are all a part of. Potentially people from big companies and corporations like Microsoft and Amazon. In 2000, there was a recording when Alex Jones was 26. He snuck into the Redwood Forest and he filmed the meeting. It is beyond the weirdest thing I have ever seen. There is a 30-foot stone owl, and they're talking about all these Babylonian gods and you know, I believe they talk about Moloch, the god of sacrificing children. It says, weaving spiders come not here. They dress in cloaks with masks, not unlike the movie Eyes Wide Shut. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of interesting. It's very interesting. When Stanley Kubrick made Eyes Wide Shut, 6 days after giving that film over to Warner Brothers, he was murdered. And if you watch the film, in the context of the film, it's pretty obvious that he was murdered, because they talk about the how this woman in the story who was defending Tom Cruise when they found out he wasn't actually supposed to be in the meeting that he went to, she sacrificed herself, and how she actually died, and how they were gaslighting this man into thinking that she simply overdosed on drugs and that she was a junkie. Now, when this information came out about this video of them singing these songs to Moloch and dancing around with an effigy of a child being burned, and all this weird singing, very ritualistic. What they said about it, it was simply a frat. Although when people were asked about it, they were very angry that this information had leaked. Nowadays, when you look at Bohemian Grove, while it's been on national television, one of the videos has 3 million views, the other has 3,000, and it's hardly talked about, and the publisher was pretty much defamed. I don't believe everything that man says. You know, I'm skeptical. I've been on his website and it's okay, but the thing is, Bohemian Grove has been something around a lot longer than Alex Jones, and it's just weird that these things exist. Knowing that these secret societies exist, we have to also think about people like Jeffrey Epstein. Now, according to the Ickean theory, people like, well, pedophilia, for one, secret society pedophilia, secret societies, the Rothschilds, Big Pharma, all these things are greatly intertwined. And not only does the Illuminati exist, but there's many secret groups that we don't even know about. You know, it's just kind of, it goes higher and higher. And you think about the phrase, no weaving spiders come here, right? And it's like from within these secret societies, eggs get laid in places like Facebook or Google. I think we all know by now that the internet is definitely curated and algorithmically predetermined. Who doesn't see the things they've been looking up pop up in ads? Everyone, that's just common knowledge. People talk about your computer can listen to you, they can look through your information, they're collecting your information for advertising. They can even go through your VPN, according to a WikiLeaks I found from the CIA of I think it's called Project Hive, but that's for a later subject. We know this. We know public opinion is altered by the media. And there's cover-up going on. Also, the mimetic space is funny too. But back to Epstein. It is strange to me how many connections there are and how many well-known people are involved in this. We're talking former presidents of the United States, current presidents of the United States. We're talking Henry Kissinger. We're talking Courtney Love, Michael Jackson. These are people that were listed in Epstein's little black book. The Rothschilds, obviously. Bill Clinton going on the Lolita Express. We hear all about this. Not to mention that, but the royal family. That's insane to me. Prince Andrews is friends with Epstein, and I think it was Charles was friends with Savile. If you don't know anything about Jimmy Savile, Savile was a man who was knighted by the Queen. He was an English DJ and television radio personality who made a career out of raping children, and he was knighted, and he was close to the royal family, like so close. And it's like, not only I've heard that he ate the pineal glands out of children's head for the adrenochromes. It didn't matter if these children were dead or alive. It was hundreds of people. Don't you think that an alarm would go off in someone's brain that this guy is a creep? You know, if you're hanging, like, you can feel people's vibes if someone is doing something that horrible, unless they're... I just don't think these people in high positions of power are oblivious. Charles, Andrews, the Queen, they're not. You can't have these kind of people around you, like Epstein, like Savile, and not notice anything. These people change public opinions. These people curate the political field. They push policies. And I'll go back to more of that in a minute, but along the Ickean theory, the reason for so much of this high society pedophilia is partially because these people's genomes are high in reptilian. Now, from the Lacerda files, it says that the reptoids are our friends. However, does not say that. In the Lacerda files, it says that there is no one race that is either completely bad or completely good. So I burped. And take a drink of coffee. Whew. Getting really into this. Now listen. This is insanity. Absolute insanity. I can't understand how you wouldn't know. I can't. And I'm sorry, but it's just weird to me. I think perhaps what he says is that the reptilians are on a lower vibrational frequency than us. So when crimes are committed that release a lot of cortisol or adrenaline, they can feed off of that. That's why the Mayans had their hearts ripped out in sacrifices, because they were feeding off of that energy. Humans, or I don't know if we're necessarily humans, because I think about things like the machine elves, and if you've ever watched Joe Rogan or you know anything about ayahuasca experiences, apparently when you break through, like, this isn't like a normal psychedelic. This is not. This is like, hey, you know this reality that you were so familiar with and you have you're so comfortable with, guess what? That's gone. This reality that you are going into is comparably a moving tesseract. In comparison, your mode of thinking is like a plain white square. This reality is more real than real, and you meet these entities of light and love, and they go and I've heard of people talking about how they had a broken leg and the entities were surrounded around them and then were healing them like these doctors. Terrence McKenna called these the machine elves. And every single person who takes this substance that breaks through reports seeing these entities. In the Lacerda files, it talks about how we live in an omniverse. And in this universe, it's surrounded by multiple universes, and underneath this universe, there's multiple dimensions. However, there's underneath all of that, there's an entirely different plane. Our souls that are so lusted after are actually from this different plane. My mode of thinking is that our souls come from an entirely different plane of consciousness. This entire omniverse is actually just a simulation, in that they come here to experience fun. Their universe is far, far, far more complicated than what this is. And that's what people report being told when they take ayahuasca. Maybe we should think of our bodies, rather than consciousness creators, as consciousness filters. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is another reality. I don't know if I already said this, but one thing you can consider is the structure of an atom. In an atom, it is 99.999% empty space. If there is a P in the middle of a football stadium, not a football stadium, I'll say a baseball stadium, the P is the center. It's like is the nucleus, and then all the way over where the border is, that's the electron spinning around. All the rest of it is empty space. And some people talk about dark matter, but I don't know enough about that to really make any concise ideas. It's almost as if our reality is nothing. And more interestingly, atoms exchange themselves so rapidly that you have 1 billion atoms of everything that has ever existed and every person that has ever existed in your body. So not only is matter non-existent, but it's ever changing and one, and maybe that's where people get this idea that we're one, but I can't be sure about any of this. So, yeah. I could go back more into, you know, why I think this about, the politics and how we're being brainwashed in this left-right situation, and how there is really a big secret behind all this, but, you know, it's just so much to absorb, and I'm just gonna have to keep decoding it. Probably eventually I'll move on to some other obsession besides aliens. You know, it was the collective unconscious a couple months ago. It's been different things throughout the year, but right now, aliens and machine elves are where it's at. So I'm gonna sign off.